You want to do a couple more?
Life of a Lobbyist with Akil on Something Came from Baltimore.
One more, just for fun.
Life of a Lobbyist with Akil on Something Came from Baltimore.
Great.
Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore, Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore, Baltimore, Baltimore.
Welcome to Something Came from Baltimore. I'm your host, Tom Gauker, and tonight we have Akil Patterson on. He is, in my opinion, someone to watch for in Baltimore. He's a man of the people. He does have his own thoughts. He is works for the people as a lobbyist. He's going to talk a little more about that. But what we're going to do is go over his social media and his postings, just get an idea of how he thinks and his thoughts about what he is posting. Akil is here with me right now. Welcome, Akil Patterson.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Tom.
Life of the Lobbyist with Akil. Went through some of your Facebook postings. I'm going right to our posts because there's things that I think are timely. The first one is domestic terrorists get off. Trump pardons Oregon cattle ranchers. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, the Bundy family and stuff like that. You know, what's the deal with him pardoning all these people? Because you know what, I get it. He let out a couple people that were unjustly incarcerated, but it's always like there's somebody white attached to it. And I don't care how many times somebody tells me that Kim Kardashian's, Mediterranean, she look white, so she white. But nonetheless, on this one, these domestic terrorists, it was essentially, these guys were holding guns and fighting people and saying that land, our cattle have grazed on it for 50, 100 years. It's our land. The hell it is your land. It's government land. And if we decide as a country to sell some of it, then guess what? You're SOL. Now, you can talk about being a free-range cattle driver all you want, but if you're a free-range cattle driver, own your own goddamn land. Period, point blank. And if you're the people up in Washington State, the ones who took over that little took over the little post office and had guns, but they don't face any charges. But yet I got people crying and screaming about kids on dirt bikes in Baltimore. Get out of here. And don't get me wrong. I think the dirt bike kids in Baltimore really, it's an act of rebellion. I think it's kind of stupid because people always say like, oh, why don't we build them a dirt bike track? Well, you can build it for them, but are they going to come? Part of the allure of some of this stuff is that they get to be rebels. So, I'm sorry, I'm going too far. But the thing with these guys, these domestic terrorists, these white guys, they get walked into McDonald's and taken the Subway and they get bought a 6-piece chicken McNugget meal. It's so frustrating. You keep watching it. And eventually something's going to happen. It's a powder keg. You just can't keep taking white guys to go get sandwiches and then I got to watch when they see us and get ready to throw my TV out the window. It's stressful. It's so stressful. Next topic.
Yeah, the dirt bike kids. The only thing I have about that is I'm afraid that they're going to bust their heads open. I'm scared for them. When I see them, I freak out because I just don't want to be around them. I don't want to be a part of that. But yeah, we're on to the next topic, which is a lighter note, which is the Oklahoma City University named a woman wrestling coach. Her name is Nicole Tyson.
So here in the state of Maryland, we know her as Nicole Woody. Nicole Woody went to, I believe, Anne Arundel High School. She was I think she finished third in the state of wrestling. Her brother is a gentleman I know by William McKinney. He wrestled with my brothers and I back in the day. So Nicole was a world champion on the junior level and trained very hard. So it was just really nice to see a local Maryland native that I know personally, get named. And she did go to school at Oklahoma City University. Oddly enough, It's a really funny well, I don't know if it's a funny story, but it's a good story. So Nicole was a junior in high school. I think I was like 21 or 22. And I decided I was going to do my internship with Maryland State Wrestling Association. And my internship was to form a wrestling team on the national level and take them to this tournament in Oklahoma City. I did not have a budget. I did not have a coaching staff. I essentially just got a group of kids together, put together a budget, formed a little travel party, and Nicole goes with us to this tournament to wrestle. And lo and behold, they start taking her around, and Nicole ends up joining the squad at Oklahoma City University. So I will take credit for her going to school there. Although it had nothing really to do with me other than that I just arranged a trip. She was just so happy to not be with her mom.
You can take credit. I don't see why not. Stranger things have happened. We got another one. We got President Donald Trump on Wednesday, again, called his former Secretary of State, Rex Tillerson, dumb as a rock. In a tweet responding to comments Tillerson made in a closed-door meeting with lawmakers this week questioning Trump's handling of meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin in 2017.
Yeah, so Rex and Donald's relationship has deteriorated quite drastically. But let's just be very clear. They were meant for each other. Rex Tillerson had no business being Secretary of State, even for the time that he was. It just shows that you can buy your way into power, and then those people that are power corrupts absolutely. Let's just remember, you know what I mean? So, you want to talk about Stalin and Lenin and them, that's what Trump's mindset is right now. That guy is going down a slippery slope. The other day on the news, he said like 50 lies, and his fan base were like, yeah, he said one thing that I agree with. I'm like, the dude just lied 50 times. He's lied over 10,000 times since being in office. And I mean, they're not even talking about small lies. The dude just lies. He lied on Rex Tillerson. So Rex Tillerson and all these rich guys, it is laughable to watch them. They got their little tax cut, and now they're all just clamoring for attention. We move on now.
We got the next one, another White House one. So the White House makes an emergency and now wants to bail out someone. The White House to announce,
the farmers.
Yeah, $16 billion in aid to farmers.
19.
Yeah.
There's a total of 19 billion. And the farmers, what's the greatest part is in order to qualify for this, like you have to own like a large percentage of land. So basically, it's not the small farmer who needs it that's going to get the bailout. It's going to be conglomerates, the Purdue's, the Tysons. Those larger farms are going to be getting those bailouts. And let's just be honest, government subsidies have led to wasteful use of our food. We dump out more milk than we consume. Because of the tariffs, we can't trade much soybean as we used to. So now we're just going to be dumping shit. So good job, Trump. You create an emergency, then you fund it, and now these people think you're great. How fucking stupid are people at times? It's maddening. It's like, look, we created subsidies on these food things because it was profitable, right? Okay, we get these people to grow it. We can sell the food overseas. Now, when the subsidies have gotten so big that they actually lobby against us. There's a movie, and I think a lot of people know that when I was working on healthcare policy and food sustainability as a lobbyist, one of the things we always talked about was how you work against your own interests sometimes. Well, this is exactly what happened. The food industry, specifically dairy, was given this large amount of money, and when dairy starts putting out this, drink your milk, grow big and strong. Well, when they start doing this with the eggs and the milk and the cheese, the government starts giving them more money. And then they start lobbying the government to make sure that they don't always have to have 100% natural milk, or they don't have to have 100% cheese. Do you know shredded cheese that you might actually buy at the store isn't even cheese at all?
Yeah, I mean they actually, like, say, "Oh yeah, made with real milk." Like why isn't it really like why is that your come on that it's made with real milk? Like isn't it supposed to be milk?
Yeah, most of them don't use real milk. Most of them use a byproduct, and so you get these wood chips things that are essentially, tasty good, but it's just like margarine butter. It's just kind of something to fill you up. And they always sell it in poor stores. So in Baltimore, in West Baltimore, and East Baltimore, you get it at the Aldo and the Save-A-Lots. So that's not real cheese, folks.
No, but it's cheap and it's big quantities and it says cheese. People think it's cheese.
It holds you over.
Yeah.
Well, because you don't have to actually say anything, and they've lobbied for that. Just like they lobbied to have like up to 5% rat droppings in your chocolate.
5%.
Yeah, but I love chocolate, so
5% rat droppings.
Yeah, so they really can't be assured the cleanliness of all the machines. Mm-hmm. So they just allow like 5 to 8%, something like that.
Mm. All right, that's grossing me out. And I also another gross out is another post that you had was a former Baltimore police sergeant to plead guilty to planning a fake gun at a crime scene. This one's been going on for about 3 years, but it's finally hit it.
Yeah, I think this was I don't know if this was the fake gun with a 14-year-old or just the fake gun in general. I mean, but, our gun task force, as we know, and I said on another show before, this is something that's always happening. They just kind of make shit up as they go along. Detective Sutter, went from being murdered to committing a homicide after they said they saw somebody fighting with him. I mean, it's nonstop. It's nonstop. Let me put it in this perspective. You file a complaint with the BPD and the IA gets involved, and then IA says, oh, we got to do a review. Then IA does a review. Then they say they're going to do a mediation. Then they can figure this, that, and the third out, and this, and this, and this, and that. You know what? It's ridiculous. The Baltimore City Police Department, there are times where I think that some people are just right. Just burn it down and start over. And I don't mean physically burn it down. Really, just fire all the leadership. Just fire everybody. Don't give them their pensions. It's funny. The FOP, most of the members of the FOP aren't even cops in the city anymore. They live out in the county and they live out in Pennsylvania. They just come here because it's a good check and they can tell black people what to do. Next topic.
Love that one. So when I tell people that the fight isn't about your existence, I'm not talking about directly ignoring who doesn't give a crap about you and focusing on the policy. People still do not like black folks. Doesn't mean we pay them any mind about the recognizing our humanity and turn attention towards the policy and protections. The most unparalleled transgender advocacy I have seen was from the transgender man who quietly changed a whole policy without ever once worried about someone acknowledging him. He simply said, I'm getting the surgery paid for, like that fat woman proved her overeating was a medical issue. If she can get a lap band, I am going to get the GSR. I'm going to have to edit that big time.
Gender reassignment shirt.
But this has something to do with our boy here in the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
Yeah, so the policy that they're trying to stick now is that saying that they can legally discriminate against those people that are trans or gender nonconforming. The problem with that is that, but at the same time, I also push back against my own community. Okay, so people get mad at me for doing this, but I like to be real. I understand that the debate is that there are a lot of trans people who feel marginalized. And I know there's a lot of black people that have felt the same way. But sometimes the best way to get your policy through is for you to never speak. It's always set things up so other people do the talking and you just come in with the kill shot. Right? You come in with the kill shot means that you have to be willing to shut up long enough to let somebody else carry the water for you. Now, if it happens to be a cisgender white male from time to time, let them carry it. And then when you come in with the kill shot, that's the only time you need to open your mouth. At the same time, we also have to start remembering that trans people have led rights and human rights and civil rights for years, and that there has to be a happy medium balance. We have to find that perfect soft spot to pass legislation. And like I said, the most active legislation or the best effective advocate for someone else's rights or for their own rights was a trans man who said to me, I'm getting my damn gender reassignment surgery if that fat bitch over there who ate bonbons all day was able to talk a doctor into giving her a lap band surgery. The difference is that lap band surgery, that could have been avoided if the person, exercised, dieted, worked on their mental health. For the gender reassignment surgery, that was literally a lifetime of torment for somebody. And I could never express or know what it feels like to never be in the body that I was meant to be in. But I definitely identify with tormenting myself, that I had to pretend like I was a straight black man for years. So I understand where it comes from and the need to authentically live your life. But I also think that policy is about changing it for the greater good. And that sometimes you just got to take a step back and recognize, look, I'm going to get what I want out of this. I'll let the white boy thinks that he really owns the show, but ultimately from behind the curtains, I'll be pulling the strings. And that's what you got to do sometimes. You just got to say it like that. Well, again, I don't know. I do not know, because this is where I say there's always that back and forth. There is a segment of people, rather they're black, white, trans. They use their minority status because essentially they want some sort of level of fame from it. They want 100,000 followers, and they'll do whatever it takes to get it, and they will make a fuss all day, every day, but they'll have no plan of action. And then there are those who are like a little bit more like calculated. They really care about policy. They really care about changing their community. And so they're a little bit quieter. And so you've got to find who's that happy balance. Who is going to be both the person that I want to give that fame or platform to, but at the same time, somebody that's going to manage it well. I mean, the last thing you want is let's use Kris Jenner or Caitlyn Jenner, right? Here you have this trans woman, like everybody's praising her, but then I was like, but she's still a rich white person.
I don't know about you, but I thought that was the craziest thing in the world. Like, it was the best show for, like, it's kind of like that. What was that thing where the comedian, where he was blind and he was racist and he was a black guy? It's like that.
Oh, Dave Chappelle.
Dave Chappelle. It was like, okay, this is identical. Like, she's a transgender rich white person and can't see anything. I don't know why I didn't go to season 2, because it was a train wreck and it needed to be watched.
Well, that's the reason why it wasn't watched. It was a train wreck.
I don't know.
Who really wants to watch that shit? Who wants to watch some woman tell everybody else how they should live their life, and like, oh, I can't go out, I get harassed, I'm in Beverly Hills, my life sucks. Like, are you serious, woman? Like, you literally built a fortress for yourself, while other people don't get to build fortresses for themselves.
Yeah, I don't know.
A train wreck.
I think it's amazing. It's just amazing, and I just, you don't know where it's going to go. It's just like more of the same. Okay, we're switching topics. You got a nephew's birthday, first year.
Yes.
Cooper.
Yep.
Shout out.
Cooper. Yeah. Shout out to Cooper. He just celebrated 1 year. He is the son of my brother and my sister law. He is probably going to be like the smartest kid in the world because my brother is like a super genius. So, and, you know, I like to talk about my family too from time to time, I mean, because they're very important to me. They're very special, and I've always had a great relationship with my brothers and my sisters. Although sometimes I feel like I didn't, but, you know, I've got, you know, 3 nephews and 4 nieces, biological, and then I've got 3 godchildren. So I'm just blessed, and then I've got some my local nieces and nephews that I love very much. So I think I'm pretty blessed to have a lot of children. Although when Christmas comes every year, I kind of regret it.
That's what you get. You know, I cut him off. I said, look, you know, when you're, what is my cutoff? I said, when you're 18, no more gifts. You're on your own. I said, that's the tough life. So
I've only got one 20-year-old, so they're all still in that age.
Yeah, you cut the cord. Like, yeah, they were killing me. And then I'd say, no more gifts at 18. You're on your own. I did. When they turned 21, I gave them a big gift. I feel that that's a landmark. Maryland House Speaker Adrian Jones. Civil War plaque should be removed from State House.
Yeah. I mean, she wrote a very good article, but I think if anybody reads it, you know, you see a lot of these you know, Trumpians who are like, you all just want to erase history from the books altogether. And it's like, well, no, it's not that. It's the fact that that Civil War placard didn't actually go up until after the Civil War, number one, and the State House was already built by the time the Civil War occurred. So actually, the Civil War had jack shit to do with the building of the Maryland State House. So why the fuck is there a plaque up there? Like, you don't see a slave plaque up on it. At least we could say the slaves helped build the thing. That was an easy one.
Yeah.
That's an easy one.
Yeah.
So
slam dunk
placard.
Slam dunk on that one. I was so heartbroken. I was so heartbroken. African American students stripped of salutatory honors, lost Old Miss scholarship opportunity. Lawyer says.
Yep. A student, because the school she went to didn't weigh the same criteria as another student. So essentially, there were 2 schools that kind of joined together for this salutatorian, valedictorian status. And the way it worked is that one school weighed it differently than the other. So then they removed the weighed part, and then essentially she was a notch below. You know what I mean? But it wasn't her fault, so the school should have honored it, but they didn't. And it happens all the time. Like, you know, you always screw the one kid because the other kid's parents are like, oh, this isn't fair. You know, life's not fair, folks. We always say it. But, you know, just to kind of like piggyback that and conceptualize it is, this is what happens with, you know, minority students all the time. They always go, oh, life's not fair. Get over it. You'll be fine. But yet, white people sue at a higher rate than African Americans. They constantly aren't fine with it. They will sue their own cousin if they so choose. And they will keep it. I mean, what does Donald Trump even say? I'll just sue him. Like, yeah, you'll sue anybody just to meet your own needs. But the minute somebody else complains, you're like, oh, you're just being a baby. That's the mentality and the mindset is that I'm being a baby and you're sticking up for your rights. But when I stick up for my rights, I'm called a snowflake. And I'm not even a freaking liberal. I'm a moderate. And that's where I get driving crazy. Like, I'm not even like everybody in this room. Life of a lobbyist.
I got an easy one for you. Who are all my Orlando, Florida friends? I need to ask something because I have gotten old. Can't remember anyone who lives down there that way. No one lives. Everyone lives in Florida once in their life, and they don't live there that long. But what do you need in Orlando? Do you remember?
I needed tickets. I need tickets to Disneyland.
Yeah, you're right. They're so much cheaper down there.
Well, I had a buddy who used to work there, and I reached out, and he no longer worked there, and so I was like, oh crap! And so I needed to find somebody that had tickets. And normally you can get like 2 guest passes off of an employee. So if you can get 1 or 2 guest passes, so I was like, hey, who lives in Orlando? I need 2 tickets. But it didn't happen that way.
Did you end up going?
No. Oh, they weren't for me anyway. They're for a buddy and his kids. I do stuff for other people all the time. It was just like, sometimes, if your friends or your family want to go somewhere, you just help them out the best you can.
Yeah.
I mean, it costs me nothing to ask people online, hey, anybody live in Orlando? So.
Yeah, and my whole thing is like ask. They could always just say no, and if you're okay with that, then nothing was lost. Trump has lost it. Called for the death penalty for political challengers. FYI, treason is not always associated with a death penalty.
I'm sorry, what was that one?
Trump has lost it. Called for the death penalty for political challengers. FYI, treason is not always associated with a death penalty.
Yeah, that's true. Who was he calling for? I can't even remember at this point. He was asking about somebody should have gotten the death penalty.
He had a list of them, Comey and
yeah. He's a fucking idiot. Doesn't even matter. I mean, he's saying things just because his base are like, yeah, death penalty. You put death penalty and Democrats together, and his base collapse like seals.
There's comments, stop twisting his words. And another person wrote, he's doing his job and doing it extremely well for free. It's the hapless Dems who need to stop playing games and start doing their job.
Again, they clap like seals. I mean, look, and also one of the reasons why a lot of people put on commentary is because I don't block anybody. There are very few people I block unless you actually attack me or my family. Then I will not only block you, I'll probably actually travel to your house and make you and introduce you to my fist.
Yeah, I've seen in your threads many times where people were having adversarial comments. I mean, not everyone agrees with what you're saying or commenting, but I see the most passionate ones are the ones that deal with Trump. You normally, and you're willing to, volley back a couple thoughts back to them. And I don't know if I would. I don't know if I would even bother commenting, but you do that once in a while. I see.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I don't volley back because most of the time I just think, you're fools. And also at the same time, I know them, and I also can tell them in their face that they're wrong, and I'll provide factual context to them and data, and I'll be like, here's a link, show me where you see on any campaign finance report so-and-so's name. That's the hardest part about being a lobbyist, I think, and most people don't realize is that they think I spend all day putting money in brown paper bags and handing it to politicians. No, I spend all day reading, to the point of ad nauseum, to the point of disgust and sickening, and that I don't want to do this anymore. I read constantly, and it's I'm reading reports, I'm reading schedules, I'm talking to people, I'm talking to insiders. There is not a day by where I am not consumed with some sort of information. And then when people are like, "Did you hear?" I'm like, "I don't remember," or "I didn't care enough," or "I just threw that out of my head because it wasn't that important." That happens to us. So when people are like, "Oh, you lobbyists," us lobbyists, nothing. You people that be making shit up all day is what's killing me.
Yeah, it's hard to go on Twitter and then have that mind screw and then turn around and go, okay, what is real and what's wrong? Because people talk themselves out of truth very quickly, and you're like, okay, well, now you're onto something completely else, and then we can't have a conversation anymore. It stopped.
Well, like I said, I take everything from a 10,000-foot view. I always make sure that wherever I'm at, like I'm looking down at the situation to see where everything is placed. And a lot of times it sucks because, again, my brain works differently. I'm not like Trump's brain works differently. But my brain, because I analyze information in a way that I'm able to memorize it because of my dyslexia, that it patterns itself after like a scattered map. You're searching for something, but most people have to be in linear. They have to say things like one after another to get it. Me, I make the unseen connections. So I grab from the right, and then I grab a little from the left, and then I pull them together, and then I look and I go, okay, how can I make a linear line with this? Because both sides have some sort of factual information, and then so you got to, kind of piecemeal shit together. Things together.
We need to have fought more because they actually can lead to conversations and dialogues. Who remembers?
We need to fight more.
Oh, was it fight more?
Yeah, that's again. Yeah.
All right, let's do it again. I'll edit. We need to fight more because they actually can lead to conversations and dialogue. Who remembers when we used to have fights and then we would both had to sit in detention and talk to the man you're going to fight with? Those moments create relationships. You want to talk on it?
So basically, the mayor of Baltimore, Jack Young, said that why don't we, give them gloves and get them down at the Civic Center and they can box it out. Now, you saw all these people run to online like, the mayor's terrible, he's trying to get black boys to fight for public enjoyment. He never said that. He said go to the Civic Center because he was like, go to a building. He could have said go to my backyard or go to a restroom. He just said go to a building, put up a ring, and box it out. And then when you're done, talk, conversate, because there are actual solutions that have been proven, especially in young males. Like, I'm going to be a man for a minute. Excuse me, although I might be gay, I'm going to be a man for a minute. Men innately, I don't know if it's barbaric or archaic, but men innately have this thing about them where they have to like prove themselves, right? I think most men have something they want to prove. Whether you're a queer boy and you want to prove that you can dance, or you are a masculine boy and you want to prove that you can fight and lift heavy things, you want to prove something to somebody. We've taken the ability for some people to prove who they are. And so they just end up with all this pent-up aggression. Like, let people show themselves and then discuss why we don't put our hands on people. Now, I grew up fighting quite often. I was teased because I couldn't read, because they all said I was stupid. I couldn't put words together because of my dyslexia. I fought because I felt it was the only outlet I had, and then someone said, no, that is not the only outlet you have. Come with me. I'll show you some other ways. And so I got put into wrestling and baseball and football. And I didn't need to get paid for these things. We're always talking about pay kids, let's give them money. I don't give no damn kids no money. Pay for them to go to these camps. Pay for them to get out of this region. Pay for them to get out of this city that has destroyed them and sucked the life out of them. Pay for that. And then when they come back, you're going to see a whole new wide opening. There's a scene, I can't remember if it was Coach Carter or Dangerous Minds, where these kids, they go to dinner. And they're so nervous that they don't know what to do with themselves. There's napkins and there's forks and there's like, what? You mean food don't come on a plastic tray, ma'am? I think it was Dangerous Minds. No, food doesn't come on a plastic tray everywhere, is what the teacher replied. Now, I worked in a detention center, and I had kids that were kind of like that. You took them out to somewhere nice and respectful, and they were just floored. They didn't know what to do with themselves. They had anxiety. Wow, this is nice, and it's black-owned? Yeah, it's a black-owned restaurant. It's a restaurant. I ain't never seen nothing like this in my life. So although we put all this, we need to do better by our children here in this city, we leave our kids out of the conversation because we think they need everything that we ever had or everything we didn't have. You cannot do a uniform blanket against this whole city or this whole country. Every child, every parent, every student, they have to have something that works for them. I tell my story because that's the truth. I didn't even know I was dyslexic until I was damn near 20. But my mother used to say, sit down and study every night for 4 hours. My brother used to defend me because he was good with the words and he was very smart. But me, ultimately, I had to stand up for myself eventually. And when I stood up for myself and I proved that I'm no pushover and I'm no dummy and I'm no fool, people listened. And I was finally heard. And yeah, it might have taken me to get my hands dirty a couple times. It might have taken a couple people to get punched in the face. But those guys I punched in the face, they're still friends of mine to this day. The ones who learned from me, they learned from my father because my father encouraged them to be like me, to work towards something. The ones who didn't have dads, you found out their stories. And they didn't hate me, they were jealous of me. There are too many students, too many young people in our city and our country that fall into the same pattern. They are sometimes just hurting and they are screaming for somebody to come see them, to hear them, to believe in them, to feel them. And yet we just complain about, well, we shouldn't let kids fight because it's bad. There's nothing wrong with fighting. That's what we do every day in this city. People fight. They fight about street closures. They fight about bike lanes. They fight about funding. But we can't let people actually physically fight in this city. They rather complain that we're going to ruin children and put black bodies up for display. Black bodies are already up for display. It's over at the morgue every night.
You know,
What's the harm?
When I saw that, I agree with him, and I understand what he was saying. And the next thing I thought was, boy, is he going to get hammered for this? and he did. But why? You know, it makes perfect sense. What they really should do is try to work on having some of these rec centers open that have been closed all over the city. Kids need outlets to be creative and to express themselves in a positive way where they're not feel that they're in danger. Sitting on the corner is not going to give you any kind of outlet to express yourself.
So do you also realize that the funding for our actual sports program has decreased in this city? The Baltimore City Youth Fund was so front-loaded with all these like artsy theater, poetry writing, and what's the other one? Slam poetry and debate team stuff, that they forgot about the sports leagues.
Every kid needs to feel exhausted. The ability of working out your muscles and stretching out and having your lungs gasp for air and testing your muscles to the levels possible, and like that is exhilarating. And it's something that I feel when I look at kids who never go outside anymore or are afraid to go outside. They never have the opportunity of realizing that you can work out all your problems emotionally by running 5 miles or by exercising, or you can learn about working together as a team by playing sports together. It's all there. It should be every kid that should have the ability to go outside and feel safe and have that space.
Yes, they should all be able to have the ability, but it's about offering a wide array of programming. We are in a monolithic thinking world, and that's where my frustration comes at black, white, and different. Everyone just thinks about themselves. When I see people like, oh, I'm worried about building black wealth, so am I. But you can't build black wealth without some white people involved eventually. Right? When in my mind, I say this every day to myself. White people aren't going anywhere. Black people aren't going anywhere. Asian Americans aren't going anywhere. Jewish Americans aren't going anywhere. So why are we continuously fighting each other? Work together. Find a way to build. Yes, it's good to have your own, your own neighborhood, your own community where you can feel at peace and at ease. But at the same time, you've got to find a way to work towards something that's better. And that simply means working together. West Baltimore and East Baltimore shouldn't be fighting over which block is dirtier. South Baltimore needs to stop acting like every black kid that walks through their neighborhood is a terrible individual. If there's no grocery store in East Baltimore down the hill, is basically what they call it, right? There's no grocery stores. There's an Aldi's off of Orleans and 40. But other than that, it's like a Safeway. So if I got to go all the way over there to go shopping, and I'm a mother with 2 kids, and I got to get on 3 or 4 buses to get there, of course my kids might run off. Hell, we've been on a bus for 2 hours trying to get groceries, you know? And I'm tired because I got 2 kids with me that won't listen because they're with their mom going to get groceries when they'd rather be at school or in a park. But because I'm so paranoid to leave them at home because they might get shot, that I bring them with me everywhere I go. Or a father who's trying to, do right by his kids, but he's got a baby's mama who's crazy and always taking him into court. And then when he gets hauled into jail, he looks bad. I mean, this is real life. This is what happens. Instead of us working together for solutions, Baltimore likes to tear each other down and pick each other apart sometimes. We got to stop. We got to stop. Yeah. All right, next topic.
You are listening to The Life of a Lobbyist with Akil. This is Akil Patterson. This isn't Tom. I'm not playing music. I'm not talking to some artists. I am a fan of Akil. I'm loving the conversations we're having. We have one more topic. What we're doing is going through his social media, and we are just getting his thoughts on his topics. I kind of thought he would pass on some of the topics, but he said every single one of them and elaborated in a good way. This one I think is going to end in a positive way, and this will be our last one for this episode, is heading on an adventure to step outside of myself and challenge myself, trying new things and living it up on a human level. Wish me luck.
I have long told a lot of my friends and a lot of the people who know me know that I am the extroverted introvert. When I am on, and when I am off, I am sitting in my house and I am reading, or I am writing, or I am contemplating my next move, or I am having a story in my head. I have, here's how anal retentive I can be in terms of just work. I will have conversations 72 different ways in my head about a conversation I'll have with somebody on a Thursday. It might be Monday. I'll just be ready for every possible scenario and situation. For me, I step out of myself. And so last year I got honored at something called the LGBT Music Fest, and it was in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic. This year it was in Cancun. And I decided to take a friend of mine. My friend's name, he's an older gentleman, probably in his late 60s. But my friend, he is the grandson of a very prominent family. His family, ran a major motion picture studio for decades. And so, and his father was a very different type of man. His father was like a jazz musician and hung out with some of the biggest in the world and owned one of the best clubs in New York City and was a farmer. This guy's family's done it all. But he was a very, he's lived this life where essentially everybody in his life was, primarily white, especially in his LGBT family. And so I said, Mike, let's come to Punta Cana with me, because he does tell LGBT stories from his past. And he says he can't change his past, but he can definitely try to change what is left behind. And so he's worked with me, and we get him down to Punta Cana, we get him down to Cancun. And while we're there, like my goal, and like I said to you before, I really don't drink when I'm at home. I do have past drug use addiction issues. I used to love cocaine, and that's one thing I always tell people is anything you love that much, don't ever do it, kids. It's terrible. And so for me, being out of a space and being in a situation that's uncomfortable is part of my comfort zone now. I want to be uncomfortable. And so being around artists and designers and fashion and music, spaces that have not been very welcoming for me, I try to be welcoming to be there. Like I want to learn from them. How is it that somebody spends 4 hours and 30 minutes trying to take one single picture? Well, I get it now. That one single picture can blow up and make you a movie star or a fashion model. But for someone like me, that one picture just took a whole bunch of time and it wasn't worth it. But that's just me, because I'd rather be working on policy. So I step outside of myself and I try new things. And that's part of my self-care. No one else's. That's my self-care as a human, is to do things that make me uncomfortable to get into a comfort zone in which I am comfortable. And that's why I tell people, wish me luck. Tell me things. Let me explore this world. I made a commitment to myself this year. I said this year was about making more memories and less work. So this week, I don't know if you know this or not, I have met with Democratic nominees and candidates from all over the country. I have worked with some of the most impressive legislators in the world. I have done things that most people would never have a chance to do. And I told my mom, I sent my mom a picture of me and Julian Castro. And I said, Mom, look at your boy. And she goes, yeah, look at my son hanging out with some pretty famous people. And then I thought, no, Mom, look at your son, who is the grandson of 2 military men. Your son, who is the great-grandson of sharecroppers and slaves. Look at your son meeting people that might one day be president or have been Secretary of State or who have been ambassadors or even presidents and vice presidents. I stepped outside of myself on faith, and it's turned out okay for me. And there's ups and downs, and there's highs and there's lows. But ultimately, I own who I am. And I love every moment of this life that I have. Even when it sucks, it's still pretty damn good. Kind of like golf.
Life is kind of like golf. Now, I know you're busy. I've been talking to you for, I guess it feels like 2 years. The concept of maybe getting you on Something Came from Baltimore or doing some project together. In my opinion, I feel that this is the best fit, and it's I'm nothing but a fan. So I give my show over to you because I feel that you have a great voice, and I think it needs to be heard. So I am excited about working with you further. I want to develop this into something special. I think it's already special, in my opinion. And we hopefully will have more of these episodes. So we expect feedback from people who are listening as to what their thoughts are. And we won't listen to your we'll listen to your comments, but we're going to do what we want. So just realize that all comments are great, but we're just going to do our own thing anyways. So with that in mind, thank you, Akil Patterson, for coming on to Something Came from Baltimore, the special edition, The Life of a Lobbyist with Akil.
Thank you, and have an amazing day.
Something came from Baltimore. Something came from Baltimore.